Today, everyone, I have the most amazing guest. I'm just waiting for Shelley to come on to the broadcast. I'll just give her a couple of seconds. Hope everyone's having an amazing day. So today I am interviewing the one, the only Shelley Bridgman. Shelley is an author therapist, so I'm just waiting for Shelley to be added into the broadcast.
Hello.
Hi, Shelley.
Good evening. We got here.
We got there. Thank you for being my guest today. I really, really appreciate your time.
My pleasure.
So let's jump into the questions, Shelley. You've got the most incredible story. Can you share some of your story? Because I've seen you speak and it really got to me and really pulled on emotions and it really inspired me. So I'd really like you to share some of your story and into public speaking and to being a successful author and psychotherapist.
Well, I mean, where do you begin? I suppose really what I would say was that what I've learned is that sometimes we have to be really at the bottom before we figure out what we need to do. And it took me, well, I always tell a story of being in Peru when I was nearly murdered by some muggers and sort of left for dead in a ditch. And I'd had a bad year. I was suicidal anyway. And I then crossed Lake Titicaca to Bolivia. And I suppose you have one of those moments when you think, well, you know, nothing's working. I might just as well get on with it, really. And I built myself up from there because, as most people know, I changed gender when I was about 30. And that was the moment that gave me the courage to actually do it. You know, I mean, it's fashionable now. It wasn't fashionable back in the 1980s, you know. But I think the serious point is from being a speaker. How I got to be a speaker was that I was trying to find my voice, literally. You know, not just mechanically, physically, but who the hell am I on this planet? You know, I've survived that, and I think what I've learned from that experience is you just have to somehow find a way to be yourself and at a deep level to be yourself, because otherwise, you know, we're constantly worried about what people think of us and what we're going to do. And, you know, as speakers, is it really the message that we should be sharing, that we're sharing, or is it the one that we think we're going to feel comfortable with? And I would suggest that unless you go out there being petrified the first time you do it, you're probably not really talking about what you should be. Because if it's too easy, it's because you're not really reaching the important stuff. So my journey, as it were, is less important than what I learned from it, you know, because I mean, I could tell you the whole thing. I mean, that Peru story takes 6 or 7 minutes anyway, but that's essentially what happened. And my encouragement would be for people to, and you know about this because you and I did some stuff together. It's about can you really peel the layers off, and how authentic can you be when you're on a platform? And I went bankrupt, and I went into financial services, as you do when you've got no money. You decide you'll go and tell everybody else how to make theirs, you know. And I was selling life insurance and stuff, and I literally had to work from scratch because friends and family didn't really exist. It was at a time when doing what I did was not acceptable, really. But nevertheless, I just sort of buckled down, and I said to my manager one day, a guy called Russ. He'll never really know this, but you know how influential he was. I said, look, I want to work with small businesses, but how do I get in front of them? And he said, look, you need to do presentations. And he sent me to Toastmasters, you know, which is the usual starting spot. So there I was back in the mid-90s, and I entered the humorous speech competition, and I ended up being the runner-up in the Great Britain final. And a judge said to me, you know what, you should try stand-up comedy. So I did, and I became a stand-up comic. And then I started to speak on a platform at the same time. And that's the answer to your question, how did I become a speaker? But I think what I would share is that it took some time. And, I was hiding still. I was wearing that mask that said, I know from experience that if you really know me, you're not going to like me. And I did everything I could to try and portray a different face to the world. And I would suggest to anyone watching this, they would be unusual if they were doing that from day one. And if you are, congratulations, because that's the only thing the world's interested in. They're only interested in you with all your failings and all your joyous gifts, because you won't appeal to everybody. I know that there are a lot of people that are not comfortable when I speak, not because, hopefully they're not squirming because I'm a lousy speaker, but because, my message is, cuts quite deep, and some people don't want to hear it. Others do. And, I hate the word, well, the Americans call it niching anyway. I was going to say niching. And it's not about that. Your niche really as a speaker is you to start with. Who are you? And people want to hear about what you've overcome, not how brilliant you are now. And what nobody wants to hear that. There are loads of people out there saying, I'm fantastic at this and I'm fantastic at that. I mean, I've noticed the spam's coming back after the cutback a few weeks ago. Do you remember? And now I'm getting all the usual stuff. I get bombarded with Viagra adverts, which is a bit ironic. But anyway, so yeah, I think, sorry, that's a long answer to your question, but that for me, it's not about, see, if somebody says to me, I'm a speaker, what the hell does that mean? Everybody speaks, unless you're unfortunate enough and, in your mute because of a physical problem. Nobody's interested in a speaker. And what am I going to get from you when I go and hear you?
You've touched on some really great points there, Shelley, as in sometimes it takes being at rock bottom to build yourself up, really getting clear on your message.
Yeah.
Some really gold tips there. So I really thank you for sharing that. And like you said, you did some work with me and you really helped me dig deep so I could share a better message. Yeah. And after we worked together, I made my keynote presentation a lot more powerful. So it is really about being true, authentic, digging deep, and wearing your heart on your sleeve and being honest and real. So thank you for sharing some really great.
I mean, you've got a great story, but you weren't quite telling it because there was that thing about, well, I wonder if that's okay. Screw it. It won't be okay with everybody. But as long as it's meaningful, it's not just a case of bearing your soul. Nobody wants to hear that either. But if you've done something and overcome it and what you've learned from it, that's the message, isn't it? I hear people all the time selling courses on finding your purpose. It stares you in the face when you strip everything away. You don't need to do a course to find out what your purpose is. You kind of know. But you're hoping somebody will tell you it's something different because it might be easier.
You've always talked so much sense, Shelley, and I just love your energy. And when I saw you speak, it really did move me. Shelley, you've got a comment here from Mo Musa. Wow, what an experience. Please, everyone, share some love, share some heart, share some likes. Feel free to share the broadcast. Shelley's sharing some amazing advice here tonight. I'm going to come straight on to the next question, Shelley.
Okay.
You have performed on Broadway. I want to know all about that. What was that experience like? Tell us all about it.
Well, it was actually, there's a little bit of detail here that's very important, Mark. It was off Broadway. So, in other words, the kind of fringe theatres near Broadway. No, what happened, it was I've done 6 one-woman shows at the Edinburgh Festival. And the last one I did, ironically, because I decided, I'm not going to really do stand-up seriously anymore. And I just went into it with no fear. And of course, it ended up being the best one. There's a lesson in that. And a promoter said they'd like to take me to Rome for 3 nights, to a theatre in Rome. Because there's a lot of people from NATO in Rome. So there's a lot of English-speaking people, as well as the fact, of course, a lot of Italians speak good English, and Seamus. And then would I like to do 6 nights in a theatre off Broadway? So I'm not going to say no, am I, to an invite like that? So I went, and it was, I had to pinch myself every day. My lifestyle was like, I got up every day, had coffee, worked on my show, wandered around Greenwich Village where I was staying, and in the evening walked to the show, and met some fantastic people and came home. It was fun. I loved it, really. It was just a fantastic opportunity just to do that.
What an amazing opportunity. That is a dream gig. I would love to go and do that. So I'm looking up to you there from inspiration, Shelley.
It was like one night I came off, and there's Russell Brand's in the foyer, so he's there, and John Oliver, who does that fantastic New York show, Last Week's News Tonight, I think it's called, on Sky Atlantic. And these are giants, these people, and there's little old me. Well, I'm not so little, am I? But little old me there, just, and look, nothing much came of it. I got some good reviews, and people came in every night, and that was the end of it. It was just a fantastic experience.
Well, what an experience to have. If anyone has any questions for Shelley, please type them in. We'll do our best to answer them. Please show us some hearts. Please share the broadcast. That brings me on to the next question, Shelley. Speaking and coaching can be an hard industry at times when you're first getting started, when you're trying to establish yourself. What tips have you got for speaking success?
Well, I think the first one, the one we touched on, is to try and find your voice. But the other thing is, don't think you're going to get it right on day one. Part of how you learn is to do it. I learned that from stand-up. The only reason you get any good at stand-up is when you've done about 200 gigs. A comic who's quite well known said to me one day, until you've done about 250 gigs, you don't even know your stage voice. That's quite a lot. And I think for speaking as well, we all have to hone the skill. You don't learn speaking from a textbook. You've got to get out and do it and take a bit of a risk. And you build up, find some places where you can speak at Lions meetings or, charities. I'm not saying work for nothing, but do work, even if it's not very well paid. I don't believe in working for nothing. That's taking the mickey. People can afford to pay you something. And, there's something about you valuing yourself as well when you do that, for me. When you work for nothing, you're not worth anything, are you? You might want to do it for a charity gala or something. That's a different matter. I've done stuff like that where you give up your time, where everyone's done that. It's a bit different to sharing your knowledge and not getting paid a cent for it. But just do it. And you don't find out your stage voice until you get up there. And everyone thinks they've got to get it right and do a TED talk before they can begin. And it's not going to happen. Unless you're very lucky, it won't happen. It's just practice. So, these are not words of wisdom. This is just common sense, really. And I found that out the hard way. I was sharing with a well-known top speaker the other day. I think it's only in the last year I found my voice, really. And I've been doing it for 20 years. And it's something about, we all start and adjust and change. Go with what you think's right and just do as much as you can. Work it.
Well, again, I think that's more than common sense. That's great tips for new aspiring or established speakers that are feeling stuck. And what I'm taking from that is learn from your mistakes. go
Yeah.
out, learn your craft, get the experience, and just keep on learning, growing, and keep on getting exposure, keep on growing,
Yeah.
and keep on getting better and learning.
I think the key, Mark, is that if you're sharing something valuable that you've learned, people will forgive you if your presentation is not perfect and if your stagecraft isn't great. What they won't forgive is if you waste their time by doing some BS story that's not relevant to you, because then they're going to say, well, what's the point? Whereas if you get up there and you get it a bit wrong, but you share something that you've learned, people, nobody wants you to fail. You know, people want you to do well. And what I learned from comedy, by the way, is, you know, they always call it dying on stage. It's not that the audience are cruel. They can't stand watching you die. They want to get you off to end the pain, you know.
Yes, yeah.
It really is that. That's what it is. And you know, I mean, you do get odd crowds that are vindictive, but in the mostly, certainly as a speaker, people are with you. They want you to do well. They don't want to see you suffer.
I like that because you're saying if you come from the heart and you are being
Yeah,
authentic and honest,
yeah,
people will accept you. And I totally agree
yeah.
with that. So I think that is a
I
great
think
point.
just to balance that though, Mark, it's not just about spilling your guts about what a tough life you've had. It's about, you know, what you've learned and what you can share for that particular audience. You know, it's got to be relevant for the people you're speaking to. It's not about just doing the same thing every time. But when you come from that place and, you know, of feeling okay about your actual message, you figure out a way to do it.
And that goes back to what you can do for the audience. So it's
Absolutely.
sharing what has happened in your life, but always taking it back to
Yeah.
how that can help the
Yeah,
audience.
and I mean, I don't always share that anyway, because not everyone's interested in, you know, they need to know a little bit, but they don't want to know every sort of nook, you know, every single negative thing that happened over 20 years. I mean, they'll all be phoning up the Samaritans, you know, to get you some help. It's not, it's not just, I think you know what I'm talking about, though. I think if people are listening, I think you know where I'm coming from on that, really.
Well, thank you again for some great tips. Please, everyone, share some love for Shelley. Give us some heart. Share
Yeah.
the broadcast. She's really sharing some great wisdom today. That brings me on to my next question, Shelley.
Yeah.
You have had one of the best-selling self-published books. Can you tell us a little bit about the book? What's it about?
Well, for years, people were saying to me, you should write your story. And I kept thinking, well, yeah, but why is anyone going to want to hear it? It's back to what we were saying just now about, is there a message? So in the end, I did, but I had the idea of, I called it Stand Up for Yourself, not surprisingly, you know, from when I was doing comedy. And then the tagline is, and become the hero or shero you were born to be. And I told the story, and what I did is I broke, using the I Ching, I broke it down into 8 sections. And at the end of each chapter, I had an imaginary conversation with one of my heroes or sheroes and imagine what they would say about what they'd heard. And that was my way of kind of making some meaning out of it, rather than, you know, look, I mean, I'm not famous, I'm not on television. Who's going to buy a biography about me? You know, you and I might think I'm fascinating, but the rest of the world doesn't give a monkey. So, and that's what I did. And so when I had bits that were, you know, where I'd had a particular thing going on, for example, my comedy heroine was Joan Rivers, and I was privileged to meet her just before she died when she was over here, and I spoke with her, and I imagine what she would say to me when I was talking about getting out there and doing it, and, you know, and allowed her voice. So it may sound a bit bizarre, but it was, you know, I'd be sitting there thinking, what would Joan say? One of the others was Oprah, because I love Oprah. I know, call me shallow, but I love Oprah. And it would be, what does this African American woman make of this? You know, what would she say? And so on and so forth. So it was a vehicle really for doing it. So I hope there's a value to it, as well as it being a good read. I hope, you know, you want to be entertained as well, and that's what I tried to do, really.
Well, the truth is, Shelley, stories do sell. And out of everybody I've
Yeah,
ever had speak, and when I
yeah,
saw you speak, you have got the most incredible story. So I'm not surprised it was one of the best-selling self-published books. Would you do me a favour and would
yeah,
you share the link so that people can check out the book, and if they
yeah.
want to
Well, I
get
mean,
it and comment?
quite simply, it's on Amazon and in all good charity shops, as the saying goes, and it's called Stand Hyphen Up for Yourself by Shelley Bridgman. You'll see it on Amazon. It's on Kindle as well.
And I suppose if they type in your name on Amazon, it will come up too as well.
It should do, yeah. Shelley with, you know, two E's in it. But, you know, I mean, all I did really was to just say it as it is, and talked about growing up in a council estate in West London, and, you know, usual stuff that had happened to people, but what it was like for me, feeling like an alien, really. And then, you know, how I overcome that. Speaking for me was an accident, like I said earlier. I mean, you don't get taught that by the careers officer, do you? What do you want to do for a living? Oh, I want to be a speaker, because it doesn't really mean anything. And the other tip I would give to people is, if you're going to do a motivational speech, ask yourself, can you top W. Mitchell? You know, who's well known to those of us in PSA and NSA America. I mean, his story is the most incredible story. So motivational speakers, really, you know, if you've climbed a mountain or rode across the Atlantic in a bathtub, okay. But if not, then there's always somebody who's going to have done something more dramatic. And he inspired me, W. Mitchell. I'll give him a plug. He's not here, but, you know, he's a fantastic guy and hugely inspirational to me about 25 years ago when I first met him. But we've only got who we are. And, you know, and hopefully what we've learned, I mean, I've been a psychotherapist for 30 years, so I've learned a lot about human nature and psychology. And that I can then share, having established that credibility. And that's my thing. Yours is something else, and people watching, they will have a different message. But all I would say is, don't do what you think will work. Do what gets you out of bed in the morning, you know, and says, I've got something here, not for everybody, but I have something that I believe has got a value. And get ready for the fact that people won't always like you. I got attacked by the Daily Mail the other week, so I know I'm doing something right. You know.
Well, I definitely know that you do wear your heart on your sleeve, Shelley, and I know that you don't worry what others are thinking. You are honest, you're real, and the ones that love you, you accept that, and the ones that don't like you, that's fine as well. So that is a great way of looking at life. Just be
Yeah,
yourself and just
yeah.
focus on people that love you. Don't worry about the ones that don't love you.
And listen, we can take it to a deeper level. You've got something that people need, and you have an obligation, really, to get that out there. You know, we've all got something. And if you sit back and you don't ever take a risk, you're denying the world of something. I don't care who you are, you have something that nobody else has. And, you know, if people are watching this are presumably speakers, either doing it or aspiring, and a lot of them will already know that. But it really is that it's that hard, and it's that simple.
We've got Nikki Sawyer saying the book does come up with just your name, Shelley. So people can just search Shelley's name on Amazon and the book
Right.
will come up. That brings me to my next question.
Yeah.
What's new for Shelley? What are you working on right now?
Well, I just finished my doctoral thesis after 6 years. I've just lodged that. And that was,
Congratulations.
yeah, it's a massive thing for me. You know, I'm the kid who left school at 15 without a single exam, you know. And I wanted to do that because I've got something on there. But I'm just actually kind of going through a branding process with a PSA member, and adding something to where I'm at, really. Because apart from the work I do as a therapist, what I'm speaking about is transformational change, really, and that's my thing, and I need to get better at that, and I need to sharpen my message up, need to do it, and get out there and not just talk about it, but do it. So it's taken me a while to kind of make that adjustment again, and the psychotherapy doctor was just something that I felt I needed to do, because it's in a specific area, so I wanted to share that. But I'm no great sage, I just worked at it.
Well, I can't think of a better person to teach transformational change than you, Shelley. I really appreciate you being on Brilliant Speaker, taking time out of your busy schedule today. And my last question for you today is, how can people connect with you? How can people follow you?
Okay, well, Facebook's probably the easiest thing. It's just Shelley Bridgman, and I've got a Twitter handle at Shelley Bridgman as well. I've got a psychotherapist page, but that won't interest most people on here. And and if you want to ask me anything, feel free. I mean, send me, message me or befriend me, and I promise I will get back to you.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing your incredible story. Yeah. I will speak to you soon, Shelley. Thank you everyone for watching. Please show Shelley some love, share the broadcast. Thank you again, Shelley. Thank you everyone for watching. Till next time, bye.